Hello, I'm Sophie. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm taking you with me to Trollkärringeskogen, and that can be translated into the witch's forest. So I'm gonna tell you about what happened here, and it was a very horrible history about women being executed because they were believed to be witches. So join me and I'll tell you more. Now we are in Finspång in the witch's forest, and the forest is very beautiful, but as I said, the history is horrible, and the forest also has some tales about being haunted. Our first stop is a cave, and in this cave 3 women hid because they were afraid to be put through the witch trials. And this all happened during the 1600s. Now we are at the witch's cave. It is called the witch's cave nowadays. And here the 3 women hide. When they were captured, they were forced to either commit their crimes of being a witch, or they would have to go to trial, where they were tortured, and they made them do different tests to see if they were witches. And it was not only those 3 women, it was 6 other women as well that are known. And yeah, they hide here, and when autumn came and they had to lit a fire, that is when they were caught, because the smoke told their whereabouts. So, bit creepy, I think, so let's move on. The forest is very, very quiet. Not even a bird. That's a bit eerie, I think. But let's continue and see if we can find the witch's pool or pond. And I will tell you about the test they put them through there. This is the witch's pond or pool. In Swedish it's called Trollkärringeskogen, and I can't translate that into English, so witch's pond it is. And in 1617 the women accused of witchery was taken here to they put them through something called a water test, which was a very horrible test, and with no scientific background whatsoever, of course. So the women were tied together, and they tied their thumbs with their feet, and then they threw them in, and if you float, you were a witch, because the water repelled you if you were a servant of Satan, and if you sank, you were innocent, but then you drowned. So actually the women that were put to those tests, one of them drowned here, and the other, actually only 8 of them were taken here, so the other 7, I guess they float because they were accused of being witches, and I will tell you a bit later what happened to them when we move on. But yeah, witch's pond and the water test, very, very horrible, and they must have been very scared when they were taken here and thrown in the water. And the water is moving, which is a bit scary. I hope it's fishes, but I don't want to stay here longer, so let's move on. Now we are at the place where the women accused of witchery was being executed. And as I told you before, one woman drowned, and also one woman was taken to be captured at another place to have her trials later. So 7 women were sentenced to death and taken here. And they had been tortured and, you know, put through the water test and everything. But their death sentence, I must say, was very, very cruel. They did pour tar over them, and then they used stakes to put them to, you know, shove them down here. And at the bottom of this hill there was a big fire, so they just shoved them right into the fire, so they burned until they were dead. So burned alive. And very, very cruel, very horrible. So we're gonna go down and look at the place where the fire were. Now I'm at the bottom of this cliff, and this is where the fire was, and this is where the women died. And Sweden has a pretty gruesome history when it comes to hunting witches. We did that for many years, and it is known that about 400 people were sentenced to death because they were witches. Mostly were women, but some men was also sentenced to death because of witchery. Yeah, and of course this forest has some spooky stories and tales, like, you know, whispers you can hear in the forest. I'm not sure if I want to stay here so much longer because the sun is going down soon, and I want to be out of here before it's dark. But yeah, it's beautiful now, but it must have been a very, very horrible sight when all of this happened. So let's move on, and I will tell you about, you know, what they say about this forest and what you shouldn't do and watch out for. So let's go. One woman that was killed here, accused of being a witch, was named Elin, and it is said that she screamed "Jag är oskyldig," which means "I'm innocent," when they shoved her over the cliff and into the fire. It is said that you can still hear Elin's desperate scream "Jag är oskyldig" if you visit the forest. So if you do visit this forest and you hear a woman scream "I'm innocent" or "Jag är oskyldig," you should not mimic those words, because then Elin will show herself to you, and if this happens, you will be dead before the sun goes down on that day. It is said that a lot of the forest around this area is still untouched because people don't want to work here. And I understand them, because this forest actually gives me the creeps. So I'm gonna find my way out of here and head home. I hope that you liked this episode and that you learned some about the witch trials in Sweden, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye!